So the first thing that I do when I've got my pencil sketch on my paper is to lift off any really dark areas, and I use a kneaded eraser, but if you haven't got one of these then you can just use blue tack instead, and it works really well. And that's just to make sure that your picture at the end doesn't have lots of pencil lines around it, but you don't want to lift off too much that you can't see where to draw. So the next thing to do is to choose some colours, and I've chosen a couple of different skin tone colours, but as I said before, don't worry if you haven't got all the colours, then you can just make use of what you have, and you can use colours like yellow, orange, pink, red and brown to get the same skin tones. So I'm using quite a light pressure, I'm not pressing hard, and I'm just going and using circular motions to add different layers of the different colours. And it's easier to work from lighter to dark, so start off with your light colours. You can always go darker, but it is harder to go lighter. So now I'm just marking in some of the darker areas, so that'll be his cheeks, above his eyebrows and under his chin. It's important to have enough layers of pencil down on your paper, because when you add the oil it will only blend what you've got down, so if you haven't got enough pencil it won't work as well. So as we said before, when you're using colour pencils, patience is key, so if you need a break, take a break. And that way you won't be rushing your picture and you'll get the best effect you can. So I'm going to use cotton buds to apply the baby oil with, and I'm just going to use a tiny amount on the end of this cotton bud, so don't use too much, otherwise you'll make a bit of a mess on your page. And step 3 is really important, don't skip this step. Make sure that you have a sheet of kitchen towel or newspaper underneath your picture. Now this will prevent any of the oil from spreading across your page and dragging any of that coloured pencil with it, and that will mean that you've got neat lines and not smudgy blurry ones. So I'm just applying a really light amount of that baby oil and just moving in circular motions to blend the coloured pencil together. So once that oil layer is dry, you can then add more colour pencil on top. So in this way you can build up layers of colour and have them really smooth and even, just like a baby's skin would be. So step 6 is just to say that you can work on other areas whilst you're waiting for that oil to dry. You still have to be careful that you don't smudge your drawing, so don't move your hand across the wet oil, otherwise all those colours will bleed in together. So I'm just continuing to add different layers with darker colour pencils as I go through the drawing, and you can keep doing this method until you're happy with the result. And the more layers you add, the better the oil will blend and the smoother and richer your colours will be. So whilst that oil's drying, I'm just going in and doing the eyebrows and the lips, and then blending a bit more with another bit of oil on that cotton bud. It's a good idea to use a new cotton bud for each area that you're doing, so I used a different cotton bud for the hair, for the skin, and later on for Boss Baby's suit. Because you don't want to blend all those colours together, you'll end up with an icky mess. So I'm just adding some darker colours now, going into more orangey brown colours, just to get a really nice bright skin tone. So my top tips for using oil to blend with would be, as I've said, keep a sharp pencil, apply lots of layers for the best result, and there's no need to press down hard on that pencil, because you're actually using the oil to blend rather than burnishing like we did last week with Paddington. Work in circular motions and be careful not to drag your hand over the wet oil so that you might smudge your drawing. Use a new cotton bud for each colour that you're doing. And most importantly, don't skip step 3, which is having the kitchen roll underneath your picture. And that soaks up any extra oil and makes sure that your colour doesn't smudge across the lines. So if you're in any doubt of how effective this technique is and you couldn't really see on the camera when I was doing the skin tones, then wait till you see the result when I add it to the black area of his suit, and look how bright that's come out. It's really blended those colours together, brought it really into a sort of a different light. It's really bright and really vivid, and that then made me think I needed a bit darker on his skin just to add that contrast. So I did another layer with a more orangey colour pencil just to add contrast between his suit and his face. As you're doing this, you will see the effect the more layers that you add, and you'll see it really does blend them together really smoothly, all those different colours, to make a really smooth skin tone. You can lighten up areas with a white pencil as well, but as I said, it is easier to go from light to dark rather than adding the lighter areas in at the end. So I'm just adding some shading now under his hairline and across his cheeks, and just finishing off a few details. And you can see the colours that I'm going in with now are a lot darker than they were at the beginning. So I'm using browns for the corner of his eyes and that orange colour as well. And finally just some brown under his chin so that it looks a bit more realistic. And I've just slowed it down here so that you can see just how nicely it does blend together. And not forgetting to blend the little area under his chin where the shadow is.
Today, Artcadets. I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned